Mira Business FM.
It's the morning drive at Mira Business FM with me, Tim Elliott. MiraBusiness.fm is the website. You can watch us on, also on YouTube. That's where we stream, and across all the other social platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. We always appreciate a like, and if you can give us a thumbs up, the check will be in the post. Oh, no, I can't say that, but you know what I mean. That's the motivation. So let's talk about independent financial matters, our personal finance matters. James Thomas is an independent financial consultant, and it is always a pleasure to have you here, Mr. Thomas. Oh, can we switch him on? Thank you very much. There you are, you're here. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm pretty good, actually. I wanted to ask you about Ironman stuff because I keep commenting this week. David McKenzie was here very recently, just before you. He is he says he's an ex-Ironman. I think if pushed, an Ironman is always an Ironman.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're an Ironman. Last week we had, I think, 3 different Iron people in the studio. I made a comment that there's something in the water, and there's you at the weekend in your Lycra with your bicycle, and I was flicking through your pictures on Instagram. It's a good look.
I'm not sure about that.
But it's interesting though, you know, because on a slightly more serious note, I kind of wonder if some form of arduous, strenuous, competitive activity has an impact in terms of your mindset or the way you work or the way you conduct your professional life. Because in each case, and I think this is true of you as well personally, but I think it does have an impact in the way you, not the way you present yourself, but in the way that you attack your sort of professional life.
I think so. I think it has to have.
From a disciplinary aspect, surely.
Yes, exactly that. It's because I say you can't just turn up and do it. You probably could, but you'd be in a whole world of pain. And not be able to give it It
needs effort, doesn't it?
The effort that it requires, yes. I mean, I always say it's 2 sports you just need to be fit for. One, you actually need to know how to do it. Okay. Swimming is, I find, incredibly difficult because it's skillful.
Great deal of technique in swimming.
A great deal of technique. Yeah. And if you haven't been swimming as a child, I think it's almost impossible to pick up. Mm-hmm. I certainly think so. Whereas cycling and running, if you have a reasonable fitness, then you can get yourself through.
I suppose you can, really. So would you see swimming as the challenge of the 3?
Very much so.
Right, okay. And that's something that you're working on?
Always.
Yeah, okay. Well, see, that's a mentality thing.
It is a mentality, but I think you're right, because it does take a lot of time. You do need to be disciplined. You do need to have a plan.
What about the competition aspects of it? Is that something, I mean, I think for a lot of people it's, recreational is probably not a strong enough word, but it's not really about whether you win or lose. For some people it is, for some people it isn't.
No.
What is it for you?
For me, it's very much, the winning is taking part, which sounds a bit naff, but it's the mental challenge. It's the mental challenge of pulling the day together, because you're out there, what did I do, 4 hours, 53 minutes for this weekend for a 100-kilometre event. So yeah, you've got to.
So that's 100. How does it break
in
down?
Total? So it's a 2-kilometre swim,
right?
An 80-kilometre cycle,
right,
and then 18 run.
It's a fair old amount of work.
Yeah,
that's your weekend. Shouldn't you be kicking back at brunch or something?
Well, then maybe this weekend.
Right,
Yin and yang.
So that's the payoff.
And again, I think that's another point. Some people get incredibly serious and disciplined with it, and you do have to have that, but my view has always been it's something I actually enjoy. I know it makes me sound very strange, but it's an enjoyable hobby, and it is a test of oneself. I've never viewed it so much as I must beat the person next to me. We're all there for the same reason. If you're a pro and you're being paid for it, of course that is your ultimate. Sure. But if we're all there, everyone on that start line had a job, a family, life outside of the event.
You are looking to better yourself. I mean, you wear a device and you're looking, well, I did this week, and you consider conditions, I suppose, and all that kind of thing.
And again, but often people say to me, did you beat your time?
Yeah.
But even then, because the course might change, the weather conditions are different, I think it's more, again, how you felt it went compared to how you thought it was going to, as opposed to necessarily being all about the stopwatch. Now, this time I was, I think, 5 or 6 minutes faster than last year, but the course was slightly different. So how much impact that had, I don't know. Was the weather kinder? Possibly. It still was pretty warm on the run.
Was the sea less choppy,
Was the
more
sea less
choppy?
exactly.
Yeah,
So all of these factors can influence your
I just think
time.
I think it's really interesting. Not just because lots of people come in here, but I'm interested in the motivation, because my motivation at the weekend is very much. I'll be completely honest. That's a really good sofa to sit on. That's kind of where I am. But you're in a very different place, and it's kind of about. Golf is a game, for example, where you play against your partner. You may play in a four, but you're very much playing against yourself, because it's a very kind of mind-centric sport. Tennis is similar in that you have an opponent, but you're very much playing against yourself. You're not part of a team. And, what you're doing at the weekends is similar in that way, I think. So it's very mentally taxing.
It's a mental challenge, but equally I find it as a huge mental release. You get out on your bike and the
worries of the week.
Yeah, I know. So again, the stresses and strains, if there's a particular issue that's been whirring around in the back of your mind, 3 hours later you get back, there's the solution.
I've forgotten that,
one, you've forgotten about it, or two, you come back to it and suddenly...
And there's an answer.
There's an answer there that you've been perhaps hadn't thought of. So it very much helps, I think, the brain function in a different way. Again, I don't think there's any scientific proof to that, but I certainly find it is a very good way to clear your head and get out into the desert. It's beautiful out Al Qudra. The facilities we have are world class. I think David was mentioning why there's so many triathletes here is because the facilities are so good.
Yeah,
you can ride literally all day. I think within a few weeks you'll be able to ride to Abu Dhabi, all on dedicated cycle tracks. So there's no cars. There's no. The only thing that is yourself falling off.
I love the idea of that, being able to cycle to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially up at Al Qudra, if you get up certainly further out into the desert, there's oryx, there's the gazelle. If you're lucky, you might see a fox. The wildlife is amazing. There's some big birds of prey. Again, I don't know what they are, but they're amazing as they're just around above you. You just feel like you're in a different part of the world even. Right? The real conurbation, the built-up city that most of Dubai is, and yet you get out only 20 k's into the desert, and it's a completely different experience.
It's a good point. It's not that far away. I think that bird of prey is it a bustard or something
Quite
like
possibly.
that? It's called.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Anyway, look, we're way off topic, but I find it really.
But the
interesting,
mindset is absolutely. It's a key, I think, part of myself is being able to do that and.
It's kind of self-encouraging, resilience and a little bit of, I don't know, maybe mental toughness, that kind of thing. Because it's amazing what you can do when you try. I bet when you started doing Ironman.
Yeah, but again, when people talk triathlon, they all go straight to the Ironman. As obviously, that's the top event, if you like. There are then even longer ones, but as a day event, that's the pinnacle. But you can start with a super sprint. So 3:75 swim, 10k bike, and a 2.5k run.
Okay.
And build up from there. But it's just to get involved, and it's lovely to see so many, when they often ask at the events, who's it's their first race, and so many people put their hand up, and it's just as important for them as for the more experienced guys and girls who've done many events.
So social side, there's a community side, and there's the sweaty side as well.
Yeah, all the above. I mean, the community side again is hugely important. The team that you saw me pictured with, there's 20 or so. Do your exercising. It's all about the coffee afterwards.
Nice. All right then, let's talk about personal finance stuff then,
shall
because everything relates, I suppose.
Yes.
So we've talked a lot about getting yourself straight when it comes to personal finance, how you may invest, what investment terms mean. And that's really been the last kind of, 6 weeks or so, 6 or 7 weeks of discussion. The idea this week is to talk about particular case studies, and you have 3 that you've put forward. Similarities and some differences, obviously, but, all real world case studies and experiences. So I'm just going to kind of let you lead here.
Okay.
And I'll interject with questions every now and again if I've got one, if that's all right.
Yeah.
How does that work? So case study number 1, and this is a family.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was introduced to Mr. Probably around 15 years ago. It was again a referral from another client. He said this person would be very keen to have a chat with you. Went to his office. Had a great conversation, again, much like we're doing now, very wide-ranging. Been here since the early 80s. Set up a very successful IT business.
Okay.
Had various advisors.
So when you met this person, had been here for a number of years.
So he'd already been here, what would that
25
be?
years
25
or so.
plus years at that
Right,
point.
okay, okay.
CEO of his business, had an idea of what he wanted to do, but hadn't really been able to formulate it properly.
Was he doing anything, or
he had done? He did various savings plans, but with no real purpose to them.
Okay.
So it'd been again the classics. He'd been sold them as opposed to a far more again that word we've discussed, the holistic view. Well, why did you have these? I mean, that was one of the first things we did when we sat down and agreed to work together.
Right.
I said, tell me what you have. We'll do some investigation into what you've got and actually build a picture of where you are now again, so then we can establish how we move forward, because he knew he was saving into various things, had a small lump sum investment, but they were all very disparate, not connected to each other,
Right.
had no real plan as to what these things were for.
Okay, so used to saving and clearly was making an effort to putting money aside.
Yeah, so he'd got that part of it.
Right.
So
Which is a good thing to have.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
So that's often the hardest part is saving, but it was, why have I got these? I don't know. What are they for? Don't know. What are the terms? Don't know. And the only bit he knew was how much he was saving. Okay.
So he then wanted to review those, and you then sit and you put a strategy in place. What for? What was the first thing?
The ultimate was retirement.
Okay.
Because by the time we met, he was mid-50s.
Right.
So it was, okay, I've got all these things in place. What am I doing this for?
Well,
3 children, all 3 were then at that point in their 30s, so they were late 20s to early 30s.
Okay.
So financially independent, so they'd gone through school. They were well out into the working world, families of their own, and so it was very much focusing now on their retirement planning.
Okay,
strategy.
so you then sit down and you're like, right, this is what we've got. So you need to examine what's been put together here.
So that was, again, because of his length of time in the region. Some of these policies were with companies that had left.
Right.
So it was just working out who actually, when he showed me the policy documents, because he was very efficient in keeping paperwork, but some of the old brittle paper almost.
The policy documents are yellowing over time. Right, I'm with you.
So who are these companies? There was certainly one that was long gone, but had then actually gone through a couple of owners since. So we managed to find out, again, the classic example, been merrily saving for all this time, no idea that the company had changed ownership. Wow. So yes, it was a few weeks, a couple of months of...
So it wasn't as though this was a guy in a poor financial situation
very much
at all. I mean, you'd been saving and really making an effort. It was just unfocused.
Unfocused, that's exactly the word. Okay. Yeah, he hadn't really, he knew he was doing something, but for what purpose, didn't really know. So it was a question of putting, rather than having the scattergun, actually getting the rifle and working out, what are we doing here?
Okay. So you then get everything together, work out
Yep.
what these yellow
Yes.
dog-eared documents
Yep.
mean.
Also,
What did you do then?
also, just to an aside, there was a portfolio of shares, but he owned
okay.
them directly. So he actually had share certificates.
Wow.
So these have been held for a number of years. So yeah, it was just a question of pulling all this together, put into a summary. Right, you've got all of these things. Now what? So that was the next conversation. Right, what I want to start to build a proper retirement fund.
Mm. Okay.
Some of these regular savings plans had actually matured, so they'd actually reached their full term.
So they're sitting there unrealized.
Yes,
Just,
invested but unrealized. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So once we'd worked out what everything was, it was a question of, okay, what's the right strategy to move forward with now? He had, being British, someone had actually set him up a portfolio bond, which is again a UK, works for numerous nationalities, but it has many tax benefits should you eventually go back to the UK.
Okay.
So that was already in place. We reviewed that and then set about maximizing the benefits that offers by moving some of the shares into that plan, moving some of the matured regular savings also, and when others were getting close to their maturity because they were set up with a retirement or a finishing date of age 60, and as he approached that, they also went in. Running his business, he'd actually been able to pay himself some significant dividends, and they were also then started to be used again to build this retirement fund.
Okay. This person, nameless for obvious reasons, but real life example.
Yes.
Was this a person who had set up all these different things and had made these moves, held these share certificates, and had just kind of left it to get on with itself and wasn't particularly interested in financial matters when you put together this kind of consolidation plan? Because essentially that's what this retirement pot was. Did that pique interest? What was the interest?
Very much so. I
from
think
your
the
client?
interest previously had just been share tips, much like people say now.
Really? Right.
Pick on Nvidia, one of the shares of the moment.
Yeah.
So these particular shares that he held, they'd literally been, someone had said to him, "Oh, this is not a bad share or bad company," and because at the time they were certificated, so he ended up having all this paperwork, all these different shares. Some had been bought in different times, so there was numerous share certificates. Again, a lot of these companies had gone non-certificated. They'd become electronic, so they had to be re-registered or sorted out so they could actually be transferred. So it was the actual structures and the products that were not really of any interest at that time. So that was again part of the education plan. He had a structure that was actually very valuable to him, but no one had bothered to explain to him why that was the case.
See, that's interesting because it strikes me that that's probably the case with a lot of people, and I'm guessing, tell me I'm wrong if I am, that you see this, that people are actually quite good at saving. They're aware of their financial future, but they're just kind of doing it and thinking, I'll sort that all later. Because it's a lot to deal with, isn't it? And, thinking about the future brings on thoughts of mortality, all that sort of stuff as you grow, as you get older. And I wonder if it was more a case of that. It's like, I mean to do it, I'll do it one day.
I think it was an element of that. I also think being very busy running the business, having 3 children, life
gets in the way, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I think all of the above. But there was, and also because no one had really sat him down and asked him perhaps a more difficult, or not difficult, but more detailed questioning as to what the purpose of this was.
Not strong financial advice was given, So what did you do then? So you get a handle on everything. What ultimately did you do?
Ultimately, we utilised the product that you already had, this portfolio bond as it's called, which is a lump sum savings vehicle. As I say, has many tax benefits because being British, and the ultimate plan was to return to the UK, although he hasn't actually done so yet, but it's still set up for that.
With that in mind.
With that
okay.
in mind.
Mhm.
It was, and again, it was lots of conversations, lots of meetings over the course of probably 2 or 3 years to ultimately move as things matured to move them into his portfolio bond, the lump sum investments, and then put a structure in place or again, review his risk profile. Where did he want to invest? He had these shares, he had the various other things. But, did they fit in with actually what he wanted to, where he wanted to invest? As I say, and build that plan, and then continue to review and build as we've progressed over the last 15 years.
Okay, so it sounds as though he was a person, or is a person, who is very open to financial advice. It sounds like this was a very kind of open conversation.
Very much, and actually, I think that's why we've got on so well and worked together for such a long period of time, because I was able to gain his trust, because I did deliver. Again, as we often say, so many people promise and then don't deliver.
Yeah.
Just actually doing what I said I was going to do and keeping him updated, because I was with a couple of their companies, because of their change of ownerships and movement of where they were located. It took a little while longer to actually locate where they actually were.
You need quite a lot of patience for this, I guess, particularly in this instance. And this is quite a good example in a way. If you're holding, documents that are still valid, but that company has been bought and sold a couple of times, and to trace it back, to trace from origin to current situation, you need the patience to do that. And I'm guessing, and I don't know, but it seems as though he'd been maybe through a couple of different financial advisors.
Quite possibly. It felt that way.
Yeah, okay.
And whether they clearly hadn't built that relationship with him and taken the time, because they
for whatever reason, maybe because he's busy or wasn't responding as quickly as they like,
maybe
whatever
it was just I was in a fortunate position that when I came to meet him, he was then ready to have this go through this exercise and this process.
Right. Okay. So you set up. I'm looking at the notes here. You did a few things as well, in particular, consolidated investments into one place.
Yep.
I kind of put together a balanced investment strategy. This fund has then built over 15 years?
Yeah,
or
it's
so?
now 15 years. Yes.
Okay. So you set up trusts to protect funds from.
So then we moved on from that, having built this wealth, and indeed because of the value of the company increased significantly.
Right.
And there was also a property sale, because there was a plan to exit the UAE.
Okay.
That then became not to exit, but to actually he actually moved in with his son, who also lived and worked here most of his life, if not all of it.
Okay.
And is now, I guess you would say, semi-retired. Has kept his position in the business, but has handed over most of the day-to-day running to others.
Okay.
And is enjoying his time between here and UK, France, and other parts of the world.
Nice.
But
Fair
yes,
enough.
as part of that, the value he's created, one of the later conversations was that actually, if we're not careful, because of your nationality, there's a very large potential inheritance tax liability.
Mm-hmm.
And would you like the conversation then became, well, this has all been earned outside of the UK, particularly sensitive to then having to pay additional tax or pay a tax on that wasn't even from the UK in its origin.
Okay.
Even though just by nature of birth, that's the country that would hit me with.
But that's the tax regulations.
That is the regulations.
Yeah.
But then there are ways and means, completely legitimately, to utilise trusts, because you're then giving away, because the assets have grown to such a value that it was felt that an amount could be placed into trust, not to be missed, because obviously that's one of the things with, I think a lot of people miss, if you to make inheritance tax planning work, you've got to give up assets. There was a classic story. Someone was given a painting, and the painting stayed on the mantelpiece above the fireplace. The person sadly then died. The estate said, well, obviously that was given away, so that's not part of the estate. You know, very, very expensive masterpiece, not just your.
I know the horses coming out of the surf.
Exactly.
Kind of picture. Yeah.
Yep.
Like my grandmother's favourite picture.
But when it was challenged, the response was no, that stayed in the house, and therefore the gift was never actually actioned. It was what we call a gift with reservation, and therefore it was ignored because the person who had said they'd made the gift continued to enjoy benefit, i.e. looking at the picture.
Okay. So by dint of location.
Yes.
Okay, you don't win with that.
So another example is people have often tried to give away property. I give you my house, but I continue to live in it. Well, then you haven't given it away.
Fair enough. Okay, but you can assign ownership, can't you?
You can, and my point being, there's steps that you must follow through on, which is why a trust with liquid assets works far better, because it's a very clear structure, and very clearly you have given away those funds.
And that's why it's called a trust. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So what went from initially why I added this family as an example, what started as quite a simple consolidation exercise developed from that into a much larger portfolio of assets, to the point where there is an inheritance tax liability that we then took action to address. And so there's many stages that have played out along the course of this 15-year journey.
Okay, and you've also worked with the company to help with, their group sort of savings and pensions plan as well.
Yes. So again, that was one of the things as our conversations developed. So why am I using individual plans? We'd like to do actually something for all the members of staff. And so we implemented one. Again, as we've discussed in numerous conversations about protecting the staff, what happens if, again, from the paternal point of view, there's a horrible when that happens and the family then come to you to say, we need help with X, Y, and Z. But also, it just means that there's a fund in place that you're not having to pay for. So for a relatively small premium, because actually, again, group policies get the same benefits as many group things, rather than just taking insurance on one person, if you're taking it out on 50, there are economies of scale there.
There are cost savings, absolutely right.
So to put a policy in place to make sure everyone at least has some form of benefit should the worst happen, and it's a nice thing to be able to do at that horrible time, to say to the deceased family, well, actually, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 years worth of salary as a lump sum. So that was something we discussed and then implemented. And then following on from that, he's quite forward thinking and said, well, I've actually now put my retirement plans in place. I'm conscious that probably a lot of my staff have not. So I'd actually like to do something for them. We have to do gratuity, but that's not to stop us doing something in addition to that, to make sure that, again, there's a proper pension, for a better word, savings in place.
This is a decent person.
Yeah, he is, very much so.
Yeah, it has to be said. Okay, so, and that, you're going from a very kind of personal position, sorting out personal affairs, to almost, that's a corporate position.
Yes.
That's, doing the right thing for lots of different people.
Yes.
So the knock-on effect of that, was it a chance meeting? How did you meet in the first place?
It was an introduction from another client.
It was just from another client?
Yes.
Okay. This is a person who's been talking about it. My mate needs a bit of help, kind of thing. So almost a chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I say, when you had that first meeting, that's what it is always that fact. Why we always call it that fact find meeting, because you have no idea where that conversation is going to go, where it's going to lead.
Well, this is what we've talked about so many times, isn't it? It's the point is to sit down and to be completely honest and open. That's kind of the first thing. But then that blank piece of paper, where everything gets written down. Well, this is what you've got. Where do you want to be?
And often
the planning.
That first meeting, as this is the example, as why I use this example, there's no way that he was able to remember and recall everything he had.
Yeah.
So that's when we found out about certain items, and he said, well, actually, when I've looked through the file, I've got this, that, and the other, and it was literally that, oh, I've got these share certificates. Are they still valid? We don't know. Well, let's find out. And again, some of those companies had been merged, taken over, changed names, become electronic, no longer paper certificates. So again, it was just a process of, again, I think it took a good couple of years to really, because of those changes, but because we were in constant contact, and it was that blank piece of paper became numerous pieces of paper with lots of information on.
That blank piece of paper became a box file pretty quickly by the sound of things. All right, and I guess as well, I mean, we're still on the first case study here, but we've got time hopefully to get to the next two. But the other side of this is, for you, I guess, this is not a are there run-of-the-mill clients?
No,
I don't know that there
again,
are, really.
I think we've had this discussion. There is no such thing.
Everybody's different.
Everyone is different.
Yeah. So it must have been quite exciting, though.
It was.
Because there's an element in here of kind of, I was going to say forensic accountancy. It's not that, but you know what I mean.
So that,
The research side must have been fun to do.
There is. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's the unknown. What am I looking at here? What has he got? Are these certificates still valid? Do these savings plans still exist? Have they actually already been surrendered and encashed? Have they run to term? We just don't know. So yes, there's a huge amount. Forensics is perhaps too strong a word, but it's certainly investigation. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to ask you for figures in any of these cases, but these were substantial figures, and this is Yeah. Okay.
But just to follow on, because of that, I mentioned his son. We're now going through a similar path with him.
Oh, okay.
Because his father has said, well, James has been able to help me. Can you do the same for my son? Of course. His daughters are in the UK, but his son has stayed here.
And works here.
And so, yeah, and I think he has then seen what we've done for his family, or his mum and dad. So I want to replicate that.
Well, it's going to be more receptive,
yes.
for sure. Okay, and I'm not going to ask for that particular case study. That's a private thing, of course, and we're talking in very general terms.
Absolutely.
And using no names. But these are.
But again, in general terms, for him, I can certainly say for the son, it's right. What we did for your dad was, you're now much earlier on in that process, so we now need to start the savings to build up to get your lump sum. Put the life and protection in place as well. So it's another, I won't say it's a repeat of the cycle, because it's not, because his circumstances are different from his parents.
Yeah, okay. It's being part of somebody's life as well
Yes.
for you, which I hadn't really thought about for now. But it's not like being, a doctor or a teacher, but it's kind of similar in some ways.
It is.
Because you have to be able to sit with somebody and talk about some pretty private.
Yeah, the conversations.
maybe very
They're
personal
the only
discussions.
probably two other people they would have such conversations with. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. All right, so that's case study number one. Let's move on to case study number two. This is another client, and again, this is a family, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, this was
So they had and in lots of ways, this is kind of similar to the first case study in that saving by attitude and by habit, but no real kind of fixed focus.
Nope.
Right.
Again, introduction via. Actually, this was where we live, an owners' association. Somebody got to know what I did and actually came up to me and said, "Can you help? Because my previous advisor has vanished for whatever reason."
Oh, there's a surprise.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not unheard of, is it?
It's not unheard of in this
okay.
industry, no. So he said, "I've got this plan. I'm keen to continue saving, but I'm also keen to have it reviewed and make sure it's as efficient as possible."
Okay.
So again, that was a good few years ago, and we've worked together since.
All right. So you do your fact finds.
But
find
again,
out.
So he's told me he's got this, but again, I said, okay, we'll part that. What I'd like to do is sit down with you, with that blank sheet of paper, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
And so we have an hour-long conversation, build the picture again, start asking lots of questions, getting some blank looks, because, again, very often these things are just sold. Oh, yes, you need an X plan for this number of years. Can you afford this? And, okay, it's fine, but it's not doing...
It's
not utilising the opportunity, if that's the right word, or
it's maximising the commission for the person that sold it. That's
sadly
what
it's
doing.
because you're just it's a sales process as opposed to an advice process.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, people could argue, well, that's one and the same, but I believe they are actually very different.
Okay. So with this family, they have children?
Yes.
They do have children.
3 children.
All right, 3 children. What kind of insurance was in place?
Again, none.
No insurance, even with children.
Exactly.
Okay. So the alarm bells are going off.
He had some life insurance because he'd bought a property.
Okay.
And when I then said, okay, well, that's fine for the mortgage, what about the family situation? No, nothing.
Right.
So that opened a whole conversation, and I think he was quite surprised again because he was expecting a conversation about a savings plan, about retirement, when I opened up and said, no, the most important thing we need to discuss to start with is the foundations, as I call it, the protection, life insurance, critical illness.
Yeah.
What happens if?
Okay. Which is, what you've, that's kind of, it is a mantra. Let's be honest.
It is a mantra.
It is your mantra, yeah. This is what you kind of live and die by, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you set up the necessary insurances. What else happened?
So we got the insurance in place. It's quite amusing because his wife was working for a bank at the time. You would think that their advice team might have mentioned it. No, nothing was mentioned at all.
Okay.
Once she became conscious of what they should have in place, that actually, again, to use that word, it makes it a very easy sell. Because when she realises, and you say, he's not there anymore, what happens if? So yes, we put the protection in place. So we made sure that the family were covered should anything happen. And then we moved back to the savings plan and said, right, okay, what are we doing this for? When do you want to retire? How much would you like to have? What's your number, as we say? What income would you like to have when you eventually decide that you no longer want to work? And I've just been building since to get to that number, to get to that position. And in the meanwhile, life's ups and downs. He had a very good position that sadly he was made redundant, I think, COVID times.
Right.
As a lot of people did. Companies overreacted, probably, looking back with hindsight, but of course we weren't to know that.
Sure.
Took a while to secure a new position, but again, as I've often said, there are products that try and combine savings and protection, life insurance into one. But why I again use this as an example to highlight why I've always been of the view that they should be separated, because he still had enough cash to be able to fund the life insurance, but we just took a premium holiday, i.e. stopped paying into the savings plans.
Okay. There's no penalty.
And there's no penalty to do that. We just simply said, right, start with 6 months and then review, and then we can restart as and when secures a new position. And sure enough, that's what happened.
And that's happened, and
yes.
Contributions have restarted?
Yep.
Okay. All right, got you. And I guess over time, did the savings amount increase? Was that something that you reviewed regularly?
Absolutely. So again, that's one of the key components, is make sure that the funds are in the right place. Things change. So yes, we've reviewed that on a regular basis.
And if you are able to do that, then it is worth. I mean, a review is always worth, isn't it? Because how often do you meet with clients to review? I mean, on an average,
3 to 6 months.
Right. Okay.
Because I think, unless there's anything urgent needs attending to, but certainly 6 months, because it's a lot of time. Things can change dramatically in that period of time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And even if it is just for a coffee and a catch up, but it's still nice. Then again, people remember. They say you forget who you are, but you drop down the priority list.
Yeah, for sure. No, I can understand that. And I know from experience that you are a man who enjoys a cup of coffee.
I am very much so.
Yes,
Good
okay.
coffee is always much appreciated.
That's the way to James's heart. I know that. So that's case study number 2. Have we missed anything on that? Have we covered pretty much everything that's gone on? Anything else I should have asked you?
I think that's probably yeah. I mean, I think I did mention in my notes to you that the new position he took initially had a lower salary than he'd been previously on.
Right.
So we restarted the contributions at a lower level because again, these plans have that facility. Okay. And as he's become re-established, put them back up to the level and indeed above where he was previously. Okay. So it's just that evolution of life and adjusting your plan to the circumstances you find yourself in.
I mean, the point of today's discussion is not to look for stories with happy endings here, because these are ongoing stories. Clearly,
yes, they are.
In both of the cases so far. But they, the point of this is to kind of make it clear that if you do take stock and review and make these decisions, you generally end up with a much more positive outcome.
Yes, that's absolutely. Life will get in the way, if that's the right word. Life will happen. Yeah. But if you're taking the time to sit down for an hour every now and then, once a quarter, once every 6 months, then the plan should be able to be adjusted accordingly.
I'm just sort of very aware that there are times, and I know that you think the same way, that personal finance is often not the sexiest thing to talk about. It is, unfortunately. But the point is, it's so important, and if you sort these things out, then life's a breeze. We've said this. Well, life is never a breeze, but you know what I mean. It's one more thing kind of off the.
Yeah, it just takes
a stress off, a pressure
after
off.
Having these sorts of conversations, it's lifted a load. How heavy that is depends, but it will help with that strategy, knowing that whatever the circumstances are, we can put a plan in place.
Okay, so the third case study, we've got 5 minutes or so actually, and this should be enough because this is, I guess, by nature a little bit shorter. But this is somebody, once again, slightly unfocused, but in a different position, I think it's fair to say, and at a different point in life as well.
Now, we mentioned, I don't think I'm giving too much away to say you've met through the cycling world.
Okay.
Again, I always say some people like to use their hobbies as a networking tool, which is nothing wrong with that.
Whatever floats your boat.
However, on a Saturday morning, if you're cycling with a gang of people, I don't want to be the one that they stick at the back because, oh no, it's him. All he's going to do is talk shop. There's nothing worse.
Do you find that you get introduced to people and say, "Hi, this is my mate James. He's a financial advisor," and people scatter? Does that happen?
I can remember one Christmas party. He literally turned on his heels and walked away. I was like, "Wow!"
Really?
So I never found out quite what had happened, but clearly someone had upset him.
Well, it wasn't you, but somebody in your field.
Which is again really quite sad that he'd been upset that much by someone that was his response.
It's a great anecdote, though. It's an amusing story, I have to say. So anyway, look, back to case study number 3.
Yes.
So this is somebody you met through...
Met through cycling, actually approached me and said, look, I've just turned 50. Right. Classic Dubai, earning a good salary, good job, a lot of travel. I'd actually bought property, so they were doing some things, but they were just conscious they had 10 years to go, or they wanted to have 10 years to go. They wanted 60 was their number, but hadn't actually communicated that with anyone. And again, this wasn't the first conversation, but it was the 50, that hitting that number
it's
triggered something in their mind.
A milestone.
A milestone, precisely.
Yeah. And it's so interesting the way your tone of voice changed then. Doing some things, and it was the frustration was coming out.
I think it was.
It can be set right, obviously.
Yeah, but I think it was more their frustration,
I'm
as
sure.
opposed to my own. That I think they did perhaps hit 30, then hit 40. It's still miles off in the future.
Yeah.
And suddenly 50. Oh, maybe it's only 10 years away. Mm. And I think we discussed previously, that's suddenly only 120 paydays if you're paid normally once a month.
Yeah, I didn't like you saying that because it was a little bit too, I felt under pressure then.
Whether they had that vision flash through, but I don't think it had been quite that. But it was just an awareness that time was ticking and ticking much faster than they would like.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and also conscious that that they had been here quite a long time, were in a good position, but really, okay, they bought a property, so they were doing well there, but had no real other savings and wanted to be able to at least be in the position to think about retiring in 10 years' time.
Okay, so to retire at 60.
Yes, that was
Okay.
their goal.
That's the goal, right?
So we sat down and ran some numbers, because again, once you start talking, you say, okay, well, what does retirement look like at 60? What do you mean? Well, okay, you want to retire at 60, but what do you want to have?
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? What are your hobbies? We obviously cycle. Are you going to continue cycling? Do you just want to cycle here or in the UK? Do you want to be able to take your bike around the world or around Europe or wherever it might be?
Right.
What's that going to cost? What does that look like? Are you going to take a tent on a pannier, or do you want to be staying in a 5-star hotel? Where is your, what are your aspirations?
It's interesting this, because I mean, this is just a very small example, but it's a great example of asking questions. What do you want?
Yeah.
And that's really what
Because I
this
can
is
tell
about.
you, right, okay, well, you need to save £10,000 a month. I can't afford that. Right, okay.
Which is about 50,000 dirhams. That's a lot of money to save.
50,000
Good on you
dirhams.
if you do.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why I throw that out there,
Yeah,
because
sure.
that's the one end. If you want the 5-star and you want this and you want the other, but if actually your goal is more modest, or your affordability is more modest, okay, well then let's have this conversation.
We're back full circle again, aren't we? To the point that you're saying to people, look, just be really honest, and then this is about you and what you want to do, and that taking control of your.
So while I say, people might say, isn't it repetitive? But it's not, because while the piece of paper is blank, what you're writing on there, even though the circumstances might on outset seem very similar, once you start talking to someone, the answers can be very, very different.
Well, that's why I said to you earlier. I mean, there is no average client.
There is no such thing.
There really isn't in this case.
So this particular person does have the ability to save, not to the 50,000 dirhams, but a significant amount. And we've put a plan in place again. But because it's a 10-year timescale, it's even more important that we review regularly, because it is actually quite a short period of time.
There's some catch-up here, isn't
there?
So
there's some catch-up as well, yes.
Okay.
So again, it's very much, rather than when you get your bonus, because again, the position they're in has paid quite chunky bonuses in the past. But I said, is it guaranteed? No, right, okay. So we can't rely upon that, but nonetheless, let's have that conversation every time they're expected, and you, rather than use that for maybe a nice holiday or to be fair, it's been invested in the property, actually now put that into your savings, into your retirement plan.
Right.
And again, it comes back to what we've discussed before, that I'm not saying to people they should sacrifice their life and their living, but maybe sacrifice some of it.
Yeah, okay.
And because will be able to then do that for hopefully many years in the future in your comfortable retirement, as opposed to scrimping and saving or having to work to the point where you actually no longer either have the health or the willingness or maybe the company decides they want the newer, younger model.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So compromise was required, really, in this case.
But because I think of having the discussion, writing it down, identifying what they wanted to do, it becomes less of a sacrifice, because they see it not just disappearing. No, that's going into the savings plan, the retirement plan, the future plan. And
then hopefully we're going to have to wrap this up, unfortunately. But then hopefully you can start to see this grow, and then you get even more of an idea of the end game.
Once you've gone past that first year, you can see, right, I've put X in, it's now worth X plus Y. Oh, and I've got a bonus, let's put that in there. Let's make sure that's working hard too. And suddenly, we're on the right track.
It's a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. James Thomas is an independent financial consultant. He has brought 3 case studies today. They are real-life case studies. It's been interesting, all similar in lots of ways, but all kind of entirely different at the same time.
Yes.
I don't quite know how to phrase it. But James, always good to talk to you. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM.